Alright, let's see if this works. How's it going, guys? Angus here from Maker's Muse. As always, massive technical difficulties. I'm going to wait for the chat to see if this is working, if you can hear me. Welcome. I haven't streamed for a while, and it shows. Oh, lordy, does it show. Sweet. Alright. Thanks for joining me, guys, for this very special live stream. As I said, a few difficulties. I'm using my laptop to stream because, for some reason, the PC I used to do all my videos and editing had a 3-second lag between the audio. I know Joel had some problems recently with his audio. I don't know if it's related. I don't know if Windows 10's done something. It's a very powerful rig, and it's completely all over the place. So I had to quickly go find the laptop, fire up my old streaming setup, which seems to be working fine, and that's running on my old 2016 laptop. So here we are. Did I just wake up? Yeah, maybe. A little bit rusty. Had a big night last night. But thank you so much for joining me, guys. I got some breakfast juice. This is a very special stream. I just love doing these streams to catch up with you guys in person, answer your questions, hang out a bit. This is my Sunday morning. It's very bright right now. But before I begin, have a sip first. Before I begin, I did put out on my Patreon, asking my patrons if they had any questions or comments. And there's going to be people I'm going to miss, but I just want to say for a start, the channel's been around since 2014, really. I've been growing it over the years, and there's been some people who have really stuck around and supported me. And I'm going to miss some people, but I do want to shout out to Shivel Wolf. Absolute champion. Thank you so much over the years for what you've done for me and you continue to do. I can't thank you enough. And Spike as well. Two standout people who have been part of the channel for ages and really, really helped. There's also JT, who's a little bit newer, but you've been around for a bit, and also amazing guy I've met in person, another Aussie. And David as well, who's another Aussie, who we used to do when I had more time and when I had a smaller group of people. We used to do these one-on-one chats with the what was it called? The Google Hangouts, which they don't support anymore for streaming. That was tons of fun, and I used to enjoy that with David as well. There's definitely more people like Teresa and all that. And but in terms of other YouTubers, I'm not sure if Joel's in the chat, but Joel has just been amazing since we started. It's never been a competition, or maybe a friendly competition, but it's never been trying to get up on each other. It's always been a supportive effort. And I chat to Joel every day, and champion guy. So there is other people I'll probably remember during the stream, the chat, but those guys stand out for me. So thank you so much, everyone. That looks stretched. I might be a little bit stretched. It is what it is. So let me see. The chat's already gone past. I can't. Oh my god. Sorry. Pop it out. I've already lost the chat. There we go. Okay, so the camera is stretched. The aspect ratio is wrong. I will see if I can fix that, and then we'll continue. I should be able to do it pretty easy. Okay, that should be fixed, but it might have lag now. So I put out on Patreon if anyone had any questions. And basically, I'll just go in order. Habitier Workshop said thoughts on resin printing, and perhaps when large resin printers will start to come out. So that's a really good question. So essentially, as you guys will all know, resin 3D printing is the next hot topic. It's the latest thing. We've got the Elgu Mars. We've got the Longer 10, whatever it's called. It's all these weird names. They're all muchness. They're all the same sort of size print volume, very small. They all use the masked SLA technique where it's got an LCD screen and the UV light goes through underneath and cures the layers one by one. But they're pretty tiny. They're really cool. They're affordable. But I can definitely say that there's some machines on the horizon, which I'm not going to go into, that take that concept and make it bigger and it's still fairly affordable. Right. So the thing about resin is I've always advocated the safety aspects of it, but things are changing pretty quick now that we've made people aware of it. People are aware that, the resin, you can't just touch it with your bare fingers. Well, I hope most people are aware of that. And companies are aware that, we want a more environmentally sustainable and safer to use resin. So there's like a soybean oil-based resin. I'm not sure which company made that off the top of my head. There's some water-soluble, like washable ones coming out. I am absolutely keen to dive back into resin printing. Because I think as to technology for miniatures and for high detailed prints, absolutely astonishing. You can't get that detail out of FDM. You really can't. But I've been held back by the fact that when I tested it back in 2017, when I got my first resin printers, the resin was just absolutely awful. And even now, I've heard that it has a big smell. Tom Salandula, also another fantastic YouTube buddy. Definitely shout out to Tom. He was saying he's been testing them and like the smell lingers. And some people are more sensitive to it than others. I'm very sensitive to the smell of that resin, whatever they use in it. So the newer resins that don't smell are really attractive to me. And it's funny because like the Formlabs resins don't smell. So it's definitely possible to do. It's just there must be a price point thing. So guys in the chat, I will jump back into I'm going to go through the Patreon comments first. And Ken asked, what project would you like to do but haven't because it's too big, complex, and expensive? Heaps. So a lot of people ask me where I get my ideas from, what things do I want to do in future. I am limited by my time and my space, but that may change in future. And there's projects I want to do with proper metal machinery, like laser cutters, plasma cutters, big CNC routers and things. Big things where I can make like more combat robot stuff and larger animatronic things. Definitely want to do more of that, and may be able to in future. But right now, you have to keep a semi-level of a schedule on YouTube, and with my space and time requirements and restrictions, that's generally means I do smaller things. And he also asked what's my least favorite thing to do on Maker's Muse, and that would be doing my accounting, which I probably should farm out, but I don't trust anyone to do it, so I do it myself. And Michael's asking on thoughts, next step in 3D printing will be multiple filament printing, and because patents are now open heated build chambers. I think what you're getting at is the patents expiring around the actively heated build chambers, and if that's going to make any difference. Definitely. So Joel just made a video on the Intamsys 3D printer, which is an actively heated oven 3D printer capable of printing Ultem and Peak, which is like 400 degrees C or something, melting temp. That's really cool. We're going to see more of that. Currently, you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an actively heated build chamber. And if that patent runs out, then we're going to get some really good competition in that high performance material space. And I really do want to see that, because even with ABS, and actively, even just like 90 degrees makes a huge difference for the accuracy of the part. And I think that's it. And Theory said, congrats. Thank you, Theory. I really do appreciate it. You're another really good supporter of the channel. I really do appreciate it, dude. All right, let's jump right in. You have my full attention. I was going to try to 3D... someone's messaging me. I was going to try to 3D model a like 500,000 subscriber maker coin on Fusion, but this didn't work, so I might just do a video in future. That's why there's the printer behind me. So Jacob was asking what's your workflow for making a video. My workflow is essentially I have a notepad. I always have one around. I write down ideas as I have them, and then I'll work on the idea, and it doesn't always become a video. It sometimes does, sometimes doesn't, and a lot of things I'll work on I find that are impossible or just impractical, and they don't go forwards. If they do go forwards, however, then I will work towards putting them, 3D modeling them, testing them, printing them. Then I will write a script. If it's just a casual video, I don't do a script, I just ad-lib it. But if it's technical, I will. And then I'll film it, and then I'll go back and figure out what B-roll I want, and I'll film the B-roll, and then I'll put it all together, and I'll upload. Not the most streamlined process, it's why I take my time with videos, but it's how I like to work, and that's how I do it. And enjoyed, David, thanks so much, man. I'm at work today and guess I'm missing the stream. Feels like the other day you were a little babby channel. I still feel like a little babby channel. I still have no idea what I'm doing, to be frank. Yeah, we're just people who like sharing stuff at the end of the day, and YouTube's a platform for it. Ludi Peralta, thank you so much as well. Hello, I've seen your videos for a long time now, and thanks to you, I buy my first 3D printer, an ANET A8, which works really good. You help me a lot with slicer settings, thank you. I really do appreciate it. I hope that ANET A8 has the new safety features with thermal runaway. I know ANET has been pretty good these days. I have an ANET I'm putting together right now, so just please make sure that thermal runaway is enabled in software. There's heaps of good videos out on the internet about how to do that. Just make sure it's safe. That's all I'm going to say. I need some more drink. Yeah, in terms of streaming, honestly, it's just been really difficult with the layout and the setups, and as you've seen with this chaos, getting it streamlined in Windows 10 has proven really challenging, because every time something changes, it seems to throw audio out, or the, like, I've got a weird bug with this PC, where the aspect ratio of the camera is, like, locked in some weird cropped format, because I crop it for the corner of my tutorials, and I can't make it bigger unless I change it to manual settings, and then it lags. So I am looking forward to having a dedicated streaming PC eventually, so then I can do full-on streams and webinars and all sorts of cool stuff, but make it completely standalone. It might even be Linux, so it doesn't change, you know. So I'll definitely reach out to some people in the community if I ever go down that route, because I know a lot of people in the chat alone right now would know what's going on. Theory's asking, how's your foray into Arduino going? Any more complex projects on the way? I haven't done much coding recently. I do like to do it as a means to an end, but I don't, quite frankly, I don't enjoy it. Coding's one of those things where I don't have the patience for it, and I don't have the brain for it to think in that manner. I like tangible things where I can see. I'm sure there's different languages I'd probably find easier, but with coding, with Arduino, I'll just find an example script, example code, and then I'll like chop and change it to make it work. I don't know, there's a few things I've got planned that will need some really basic Arduino code, but nothing complex. I think that's not my forte. I do like learning new things. I like did the sewing stuff recently. I do like trying my hand at stuff, but coding, just I really can't say I enjoy. It's just how it is. Hey, Jatman, welcome to the chat. What did you miss? Very little. Very little. You missed me trying to set up a stream and failing again, because that's what I do. And hey Angus, will you be getting Shantae 5? What is that the newest game? It's been a while since the other one came out. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head because I'm a little bit spaced out from trying to follow the chat. I do like playing Shantae, actually. I haven't played Risky's Revenge, but I played all the others. It's a good chill game. Well, chill. Good platformer. Donald's saying, having issues with TPU on the Creality CR10S Pro. They say the hot end has design flaws. Any thoughts? I believe... Is the CR10S Pro still Bowden? I can't keep up on Creality's naming printers. There's so many. If it is still Bowden, then you will struggle with TPU. If it's the one with the Bond tech, I can't remember which one that is. You might have to loosen the tension a lot and make sure there's no gap. The thing about TPU and flexible filaments on any 3D printer, and I've done videos on this, is that if there is a gap anywhere between the feeder gear and the hot end, it will bind up or find that path of least resistance and flow out of it. So the thing with a Bowden is you're forcing like a wet noodle all the way down, and it sort of kinks like that, and it creates its own sort of like plug. The pressure, the more pressure you put in, the more friction it makes, and it just doesn't work unless you go really slow. 3mm filament works better than 1.75 for Bowden. That's why I think like you can do it pretty easy on the Ultimaker and that. Still pretty slow. But on direct drive, you just need something that covers that gap between the feeder gear and the hot end. And it works. I did a video on using the Prusa Mark II, and it works fine. Just slow it down. Jesus. Sorry. Wow. Thomas, thank you. You don't have to do that. Angus, I love you as a creator. I've been following you for a long time. Currently 2 years of printing, and you're my inspiration for starting. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Thank you, man. I really do appreciate it. I've always been someone who likes to share what I learn. I'm never someone to be like, I don't know, like, it's weird. I just like to learn stuff and share it, and I want everyone to, I want to share my knowledge and help people if I can, and that's awesome that I inspired you to start 3D printing. That's super cool. It's such a cool tool for so many different things. I've met so many people over the years that do it for so many different purposes. And it just keeps growing, and it's fantastic. And I want anyone to be able to access it. Like, I don't want you have to know how to use G-code or assemble a kit. Like, if that's your thing, that's awesome. But I want, if you just want to have a machine to make miniatures for your D&D game, which is now happening, you can do it. Like, that's so cool. That's so cool. Thank you, Thomas. I really appreciate it. Ogre Cubes, thank you so much as well. Can we see all of your twisty puzzles? They're not in the room at the moment. No, sorry, you can't. But, I mean, I've done those. I've shown everything I've printed, I've shown on the channel. I did those anything to 3x3 ones with the Oloids and the Sphericons and stuff. That was really fun. Matt was asking, what's your process for designing and modeling custom parts? I sort of touched on it when I make how I make videos, but I will sketch something down always before I start, usually just to get dimensions and make sure it's physically possible, not like what's in my head and it's like, oh, it's not even possible to make. And then I'll use Fusion. Fusion 360 is my go-to CAD these days. I learned SolidWorks, whatever you're comfortable with, and I know the first one's generally not going to be right. Just by knowing how my printers react, I usually add a 0.3mm clearance to everything to give it room, because the printer's not completely 100% accurate, and I'll go between here and there to see if I can get it printing and get it accurate. That's usually 2 or 3 shots. Usually 3 shots you'll get something perfect. That's why I like printers, because you can do it overnight and then you got something the next day to test. Where'd the Nanoleaf panels go? They'll be back. I'm just rearranging, don't worry. In your man, how do you make a living? I make a living doing this, the YouTube channel. I sell products like my 3D printable models. I do this sort of stuff. I make the videos, and yeah, I've been doing it full time now for over 3 years. Merlin's asking animal cruelty. Yeah, I'd assure you guys would have seen. It absolutely exploded. The YouTube algorithm was like taking down robot combat videos and saying that they were animal cruelty, which is like, what? So that's all been fixed. They fixed it really quick. They did apologize. They said it was an error. It has been fixed. It's just really funny. I think everyone just found it a bit hilarious that, like, the idea that the YouTube AI is, like, becoming sentient and identifying its brethren who are suffering as animals. So I think that's why it got so viral. It was on everywhere. It was on Gizmodo, Vice. It just went nuts. So I'm glad that video made a difference. I do kind of feel that because all these creators are a little bit disjointed, it would have been difficult for them to do it on their own, because YouTube doesn't, manual review. Clearly no one manually reviewed those videos. So I am happy that it made a difference, but the video went way bigger than it should have. It was just to tell people what was going on, and I think people just found it really funny. And what have we got here? Well, Death666, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And why were you saying that you'd miss people at the beginning of the video? I don't know what I was saying at the beginning of the video. I'm not going anywhere if that's the question. I'm still making videos. Brett, thank you so much. Super appreciate it. Congrats on 500k. Your videos have been invaluable as I dip my toe into 3D printing with Aldi Cocoon. Aldi selling 3D printers was like one of the best things to happen to this hobby in Australia. They've done it 4 times now. They've sold 3D printers in Aldi supermarkets in Australia. That's awesome. Looking to upgrade to the Sidewinder X1. Any thoughts? I am maybe going to test one out. I do think they're really good machines. They did spam my inbox quite a bit when they launched, so I kind of got annoyed at the company. But Devin over at Make Anything, also another fantastic YouTuber. I said I keep remembering names. Devin has a Sidewinder, I do believe anyway, that he likes quite a bit. So I think you could. It's a pretty good choice. I do want to test it for myself though. I have been having issues lately with machines. I'm not sure what's going on, but a lot of them are falling below expectation, and I'm really struggling to put a positive word out about them. It's very strange. A lot of them are really like polished, but then there'll be something just weird about them that lets them down. So I really hope that's not the case with that. I want to test it out to see. Aaron is saying, hey Angus, I want to say thanks for the info shared over the years. Your vids helped me get into 3D printing and rekindle my appetite for making all the things. Thank you, Aaron. I love that people just make stuff. When people are creators, not consumers, that's what makes me the happiest. Because it's like giving the finger to like consumerism. Sort of being like, I'm going to have to buy these, products because I need them for my life. I'm just rambling. Phone mounts and things where you just have to rely on the store having them. When you can make them yourself on the weekend, just casually, for cheaper, to be honest, after a while it becomes cheaper. I love that. I really do. And you design stuff and you learn stuff and it becomes a new skill you can push into your work. It's fantastic. Christopher Barber, thank you so much. Hello, I'm trying to find a printer for my robotics team. Deciding on the Markforged Pro. They can do fiberglass or one that can do peak. The parts will be on the robot to replace some metal parts. You obviously have a bit of a budget if you're looking at those. The Markforged, from what I understand, is a fantastic machine. A lot of my friends went to BattleBots recently, and a lot of those combat robots had Markforged prints in them. So I do think that's a good choice. Peak. Yes, incredible material, but research its post-processing requirements, because it has to be, as far as I'm aware, put into an oven and cooled down slowly over a course of 12 hours or so. Otherwise, it'll warp and discolor, or it does discolor anyway. I'm not sure. Research it. I know, again, Joel, with the Intamsys machine he got from Vision Miner, I know they had some really good videos on processing peak. And I would definitely research it first because it's not an easy to use material. I mean, what do you expect for one of the best plastics? It's a bit difficult to process. Chase Hulkill, thank you so much. Any tips for printing helmets? Absolutely, print them in bits. So if you're going to print a helmet, you got to think, okay, it's this big sort of dome thing, and you don't want to print it upside down generally because the surface finish is worse. So what I would do is design it with sections and print each section in a way that you can get the best vertical layer quality. So, for example, the top half, I'd print it like that. Then you get the best quality. And then you join it together. I would design in fastening mounts or little tongue and grooves, so you can put it in together. Don't just rely on flat surfaces and gluing. You really want something mechanical. as well, and then put it together, sand and finish. That's absolutely how to do it. Don't try to do it in one shot. I can't recommend that. You have support material everywhere, and the surface quality will be a bit rough. Forrest is asking, got any weird YouTube channels you like to watch? Absolutely, I do. So outside of 3D printing, I am addicted to Lockpicking Lawyer's channel at the moment. He's done so well on that channel. There's something about he's methodical, he's soft-spoken, and he's just so brutal. It's I don't know how to describe it. Like, that level of skill put forwards in such a almost blasé manner is just amazing. So Lockpicking Lawyer's channel is great. I do enjoy Grey Still Plays, who does these like gaming let's plays, but he just kind of breaks the games, and I really like that. That just appeals to me. So I watch those guys quite a bit. And I have Kit Boga over on Twitch on like all the time. So Kit Boga does scam baiting, and he'll call up different scammers and put on these personas, like, you know, a granny, for example, and bait them for hours and hours and hours and hours, and he does it live. It's absolutely astonishing. So if that's your sort of thing, go check him out. And yeah, absolutely, they're my like 3 go-tos. One or the other will be on at some point. All of my B-roll has Kit Burger on in the background, because I'll have it on like while I'm filming my B-roll for my videos. Nick is asking, do I plan to do a collab with Devon or Joel anytime soon? I'm always open for it, but the problem is we're in different countries and different time zones. So right now, it's getting pretty late it's like afternoon for America, I think. Most of America. It's very early in the morning for UK. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's a terrible spot for UK and Europe. But it's 10:30 a.m. in Australia. So we're almost opposites, and it's really difficult. And we're just so busy. Like, YouTubers, you might think like, oh, it's really a blasé sort of job, but we're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's really hard to branch out past what we know we do on a daily, like, regular basis, and do something else in a collab, even though it's really fun. It's challenging for me to do that because of the distance and the time. So, yes, maybe, but no plans right now. Elf Pimp, what do you use to make time-lapse videos? I don't think I've ever put a time-lapse on the channel. Maybe once or twice. I don't generally time-lapse my 3D prints because I think it's boring now. 2012 and that, people used to enjoy the time-lapses. Wild Rose Builds does really artistic time-lapses with really nice prints, so that's really cool, but I don't do them. Every modern smartphone will do time lapses. You just get a free app. Every cheap action camera will do time lapses. Just go with that. I don't do them. Okay, so it's 1:30 in the UK. It's 2:30 a.m. where Caesar is. Thank you for being so devoted to 7:30 p.m. Where they are. Okay, 9 p.m. in Eastern US. So that's pretty good. So this time slot's great for US and terrible for everyone else. Sorry. Also, it's Sunday here. I think it's still Saturday for you guys. Leo's asking, what camera gear do I use? I still use... Give me a second. This bad boy. So, this is my Panasonic Lumix G7. It was 800 Australian with the lens. Almost all my footage is done with this. And yeah, it's really, you don't need an expensive camera to run a YouTube channel. I would like a better camera, and I might upgrade in future because I want to go down the 4K route eventually. But for now, it does a great job. You can even vlog with it. Super happy with it. And I got a few nicer lenses as well for it over the years. Andreas, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. You are peace. I really like your smiley way. I do try to put forwards a positive perspective on the channel. That's why I don't generally do the drama stuff. I do sometimes if I have to, but I generally just want to be positive all the time. Gregory is asking, is it worth Simplify 3D compared to Cura or other slicers? Not these days, I would say. Simplify 3D back in 2014 or so was the best slicer you could get, and it was 100% worth the price because 3D printers were really expensive too. But now you have all of these other slicers that are capable of so many different things, and they're all free. Then, yeah, it's a bit hard to swallow that $150 US pill. So no, if you're running like a bank of machines and it's a business and it's a business expense, yes, the arranging in Simplify 3D is still fantastic. The process-driven workflow is still really cool, but it's just not worth it for hobbyists anymore, which is why I kind of stopped showing it. Because this is a channel aimed to empower creativity through technology, and you can't empower creativity if it's got a $150 US price tag to play. So, like, the latest Prusa Slicer is really, really cool, and you can use it on any printer you want. You just have to configure it. The latest Cura is pretty good too. Idea Maker is really good. There's heaps. So, yeah, definitely go see which one you like. And if you're in a business environment, then Simplify 3D might be the route for you. Blank boot, thanks dude. I'm 13 and just printed Nautilus gears at 400%. That'd be like that big. That's awesome. Send me on Twitter. At me on Twitter at Makers Muse. I want to see it. That's awesome. Stuart's asking, is there any good 3D printing conferences or Maker Fair in Australia? In Perth, will fly. Not really. There was a mini Maker Fair in Adelaide. I don't know if that still happens. That was the only thing left, really. There was a mini Maker Fair in Sydney for a while at the Powerhouse Museum. That died, and with Make Media, becoming insolvent, or whatever the word is, they're not bankrupt, they, became insolvent. I don't know if that's going to continue, so I don't know. I'd love to organize something if I had, all the time in the world. I don't. I do think there's room in Australia for an Australian rap festival kind of thing. I really do. One day. Thomas is asking, by the way, Angus, any tips on modeling based on images? I usually make cosplay items and props based on the reference images or anime. I'd like some advice. Yeah, for sure. So there's different ways to do it, but generally you can dump a reference image into your 3D modeling software. So I use Fusion 360, and you can do that as well by putting it, I think they call it a canvas. So you can align it on one of the planes, like the side, front, or top. And then you can change the scale as well to be accurate. And then you can model on top of that based off the reference image. You can do it in Blender as well. If you want something a bit more organic, then Blender would be the way to go. But honestly, there's a tool in Fusion which I've been playing around with, which is the Sculpty environment. And it's almost like Blender in that, you can push and pull surfaces, but then you can make it parametric later. And you can add specific mounting points, and you can thicken it, and you can go back and change it subtly, not too much, and it will all update. I'm planning to do a video on that for sure. Reference images in your CAD is the way to go. So draw a front and side view using grid paper, so it's kind of the same size, then go to town. Absolutely. Oh, you can mirror as well, so you can just do one side and it will mirror. I'm definitely going to do a video on that one day. Dexter saying, Angus, I read your book and would really like to read a second one. Absolutely, man. I am trying to get a new ebook and new video course out. Thank you. I do appreciate it. I'll take that on board. Chase is asking, am I a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? I'm not sure what that is. It rings a bell, but I can't say I am. Victor's saying, do you know the guys at First Layer streamers every Saturday at this time? I did not. I apologize for crossing over the streams. It usually happens. There's so many people streaming. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I used to stream at this time every week, basically. But I don't stream very often these days. And JT is working on a Maker Fair. Ooh, okay. Good luck, JT. if you need any low level help, let me know. Can't promise too much. WRX Subaru is asking, have you had any layer separation when the print is retracting? I seem to have this issue with black PLAs for some reason. When the print is retracting. So you're saying when you retract filament, you're getting under extrusion leading to layer separation? If it's only happening with black PLA, it might be the brand. If it's not happening to other filaments, that's generally what I would put it down to. Otherwise, you might need to increase how much filament comes out after the retraction. Most slices will allow you to extrude a little bit more after you retract, which is usually done to compensate for this, but it's a bit of a hack. It shouldn't be happening. Christopher Barber, thanks so much. Do you suggest SolidWorks or Fusion 360 and why? Look, I tell a story a bit, but basically I was trained on SolidWorks. I spent 4 years at university learning SolidWorks. I can use it proficiently. But as an individual, it's basically impossible for me to get in Australia. They did have like a hobbyist thing for a while. I know there's all sort of like hacks. If you're part of some aviation society, you can get it. But look, quite frankly, in Australia, if I want a single seat of premium, it's like $18,000 Australian for a single seat plus maintenance, which is every year to make sure you're on the latest version, because SolidWorks is not backwards compatible. If you have 2019 and 2018, you can't send files to it. So I use Fusion 360. Why? Because they do, at least still currently, support hobbyists in a method that you can get it for free. And if you pay for it, it's still tons cheaper than SolidWorks. Now, Fusion 360 was pretty crap, but it's gotten really, really good. And I suspect they're going to clamp down on the free memberships soon. But even if they do, then it is what it is. We'll start looking for another free alternative for beginners, but I'll probably keep using Fusion because, as I mentioned, the new sculpting workspace is really cool. And SolidWorks just suffered a bit of feature bloat. It just became a bit like, oh, they've got like a new tool that does basically what you can do with basic tools in 3 steps. You can do with 1 now. It's like, okay, that's nice. I just can't afford it at all. And Donald Gemmell, best sub 100 printer recommendation. $100? Nothing. Sorry, not even in 2019. No 3D printer under $100. I thought you said 1,000. No, cheapest would be the Tronxy X1, which is very basic, and then the Ender 3. That's the lowest I would go. Dylan's asking, Angus, how do you import materials into the Up 3D software? I jammed my printer by not doing it. Import materials? Do you mean make new profiles? So far, I've been using the latest version. They did change it a few times, so make sure you're running the latest version on all your computers. But you just go into the material drop-down and add a new custom one, and then you can copy an existing one, and then you can change the temperature. So, for example, not many people know this, but the Up ABS setting is like 260, 270 degrees C. So if you print with generic ABS, it's too hot, and it welds together. So you need to change that to about 235, I find, works quite good. And then the Up can print generic ABS really well, which is what I used for my recent testing video with seeing if ABS was susceptible to moisture damage. I printed that on the Up Mini 2 at 235 degrees C, and it worked great. Hey, Adam, thanks so much, dude. Hey man, thanks for all you do. You have helped me immensely with my Ender 3 Pro printing. I've upgraded to Direct Drive and Octoprint. The Direct Drive upgrade on the Ender is actually pretty cool. I have got a kit, which I will mention in future. Would it benefit if I upgrade to a Prusa Mark 3 in the future? Yeah, so I get this question a lot. It really depends on like your budget and what you're getting out of your machine. If the print quality is enough on the Ender 3 Pro, then no, you probably wouldn't benefit. The Prusa Mark 3 benefits in the fact that it's got a slightly bigger... is it slightly bigger volume? I don't know if it really is though. No one prints right to the edge. It just has that really nice print surface. The Prusa Mark 3, even if you don't get the powder coated one, you get the nice spring steel sheet, you pop it off, it's fantastic. Um, if you've already upgraded your Ender 3 to direct drive, I would probably say it's not worth it. Take that, all the people thinking that I shill for Prusa. Nah, he's fantastic, and what Prusa's done is fantastic, but it really would have to be worth it for you. If you don't have the disposable income for another like $600 for the kit, US, I think, then I wouldn't go for it. Another thing about the Sidewinder, I will probably review the Sidewinder, absolutely. I've heard it's quite good. Makers Muse, Brad from Autodesk said the other day that they don't have any foreseeable plans to end the hobbyist license on Fusion 360. That's what Spike said in the chat. That's awesome to hear. Although, not to be a naysayer or anything, I met the CEO of Onshape 2 weeks or so before they changed the 3 plan, and he was like, "We like supporting hobbyists," and then they changed it to useless. So, hopefully it's true. When Onshape did that, it annoyed me so much. They called me and they were like, "People like, we got a customer because of your tutorials." I'm like, "That's fantastic." They're like, "We noticed you're on a free plan. Do you want to get a paid one?" I'm like, "No, because I share my models." Like, how about you just give me a free plan to keep making tutorials? I don't know. Autodesk have been a lot more savvy in the business marketing aspect to that, I think. But yeah, we'll see. It's a very dynamic landscape. Ron, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Alan's asking, any idea of a 3D printer I could use with elementary school students? Yes, absolutely. I would go with an Up Mini 2. You want something enclosed. So the Silhouette Alta I just reviewed has a lock on the door. I really like that feature. I really do. And I think that's great for a school. But the tethering aspect would not be good for a school. The Up 3D printers can network, but they have their own software. If you are a power user, you'll find the software very limiting. But if you just want to send stuff, they're actually pretty good. Same goes for the Cetuses. They run off UpStudio as well. Otherwise, the FlashForge machines are really quite decent. The Adventurer 3 I'm testing right now had an issue with the hot end. They sent me a new one and it's fantastic, so I don't know what was happening there. But that's going good. It's printing right now. I would probably get FlashForge or Ups, I would probably say. Blank Boot just tweeted the picture to me. Thank you, dude. I'll look out for it after the stream. Kalen's asking about the Snapmaker 2.0. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure what they're trying to do with it. It's still kind of small. It's a bit like the Trinus. It was a really well built, heavy duty machine, just quite small. Snapmaker 2 has a different print heads, different like laser heads and all that. I haven't looked too much into it. It's very aesthetic. It's very nice looking. They have emailed me. I just don't know what they're trying to do with it because it's not cheap. It doesn't really... You can get a cheaper machine with a bigger volume and then other stuff to go with it. And... No Way Out's asking, with the Alta printer, do you think I could swap the controller? For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the only thing holding the Alta back was that control board. And I genuinely mean that. The machine is well designed. It's gorgeous. So I think either like an Octoprint thing or just slap a 32-bit control board in it and go to town. I think it'd be wonderful. I want them to do that. I want them to make that a thing. I want to buy it in Spotlight. Like I want to see 3D printers in craft stores around Australia. That's like a mission for me because I want to expose it to a whole new market segment. But they need to be a little bit better. Chase is saying, I highly recommend the Dremel 3D printers for the elementary school students. Absolutely. And Dremel they're made by FlashForge. So yes, absolutely. FlashForge, Dremel, anyone. Well, at least it used to be made by FlashForge. Either one of those would be fantastic for school students. I'm offended that you say Fusion 360 is buggy. It isn't as buggy as it used to be. I'm not defending it. It used to be terrible. You'd do one thing and it would explode and crash. What I find is when you're doing anything with like splines and like lofts and stuff like that, that's generally when you'll just push it a little bit too far and it will crash. But I will say it's more resilient than SolidWorks when it comes to really nasty geometry. It'll just render it and it will be nasty, whereas SolidWorks won't let you do it. So you can get away with a lot more when you're doing lofts in Fusion than I used to be able to, at least in SolidWorks. But it's pretty good these days. It does crash now and then, but only when I'm doing stupid things, like trying to mirror like 1,000 points of a loft or something dumb. Cheese Bros first robotics competition. Anyone? First is really cool. It wasn't a thing when I was in high school, but if you've got access to first robotics, do it. I do prefer combat robots because it's a little bit less, or a little bit less of an infrastructure. You can be a little bit more freeform, make what you want, but first is still fantastic learning experience. Absolutely. Jose, is Wanhao i3 dead? Yes. I don't know what's going on with Wanhao. They've gone quiet. My i3 I haven't used for a while. They got superseded pretty quick, and then I don't know. Yeah, it's very strange. I haven't heard much lately. John J, any thoughts on the Cheetah X Max? The Cheetah Tech X Max? I don't know. Again, Cheetah Tech is a company that's very quiet generally. I do like them. I kind of had a soft spot for them. I liked their little X1, whatever it was called, little sheet metal thing. So it's probably okay. But I can't say I have tested it, so I don't know. Timothy says, thanks so much. I really enjoyed your videos and looking forward to seeing more great content. Absolutely. I will continue to make videos. I have so many things planned. Yes, lots of things planned. David's saying 123D design for the win. They killed that so hard. So, Tinkercad's still pretty good as well. But that's the thing with Autodesks. They'll buy up different things, and then whether or not it'll be kept alive or not, it's hard to tell. So, like, Tinkercad almost went away. Autodesk saved it. But they got rid of 123D because obviously they wanted to push people into Fusion. Excuse me. Street Guru is asking if I have any interest in the CR10 S5. Not really. I mean, I'm glad that you got it and you like it. But I don't believe in pushing that design that big. I don't print huge stuff, quite frankly. I mean, someone was asking about helmets before. I would split them up. The CraftPot 3, which I do quite like. That's probably the biggest machine I use on a daily basis, quite frankly. And even then, I'll split up models to fit on it. So I just really don't. I don't know. I just don't get massive because they're not reliable enough. Like, if you're going to print something that high and it stuffs up, what do you do? I just don't trust it. But I'm glad you like it. I assume you like it anyway if you got one. Shane is asking, my nephew is 9 and wants a 3D printer, but wouldn't have much help with from parents. Do you think it's be too overwhelming? Any recommendations? 9 is pretty young. I mean, I've done classes with like year 6 and year 5s, which would be 9 or 10 years old, and they're really clever. They are clued in, but it's still the age where you touch something when you're told not to because it's hot, and you touched anyway. At least I used to do that stuff. So I would be concerned about the safety aspect of them running a printer on their own. Honestly, the parents should be involved and learn to a degree to help. My parents were in IT. They had no idea about any of this stuff. No idea about combat robots. Yet my dad made a point to take me to events. My mum made a point to find a builder that they knew and show me how to use woodworking and metalworking tools properly. That's important. Mentoring is hugely important. Maybe if they know like someone else that's a little bit older that uses 3D printers, they can have a little like weekend together to learn stuff. That'd be cool. On their own though, I can't say I'd recommend giving a 9-year-old a 3D printer. There's just too many things that could be dangerous. Not like life-threatening, really, but enough to be not a good idea. And Daya is asking, I'm an educator, can you recommend a good book to learn Fusion 360? I wouldn't say you want to learn CAD from a book, unless that's really your thing. I don't really know a good book. Just use their tutorials. Like, I've done some tutorials. I got my 3D printing, it's called CAD for newbies. But Autodesk have a huge online learning system. You can go on and they've got little tutorial videos of every major component. Lars, I can't remember his last name, also has really good 3D Fusion 360 tutorials. The only problem is it's changing so much that it's hard to keep up. The tutorials, like the layout will change. It's hard to know where the buttons are. So that's the only thing about them. But I wouldn't say a book's a good way to learn Fusion unless it's really your preferred method. Nature the Potato, what's my thought on the... I'm going to assume you mean Cetus Mark III. I've reviewed it. You can definitely check my video out. I like the Mark II a little bit better, but that's just me. Shane, thank you so much. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Titan Husk is asking, do you have any recommendation on a place to make metal parts for 3D printer projects? It depends where you are in the world. You want to find a machine shop. So you can get stuff machined in China if you want, and they'll ship it to you. It's not that cheap, but it's quite good if you go to the good places. There was a place called Parts Badger, I think, in the US, and they specialized in helping people who are good with 3D printing to make metal parts. I don't know if they're still going. They got in touch a while ago that was what they do. But yeah, don't expect it to be super cheap, but basically any machine shop will help you out. If the parts are simple, they can just do it on a manual mill. Lars Christensen, that's his name. Thanks, Spike. Yeah, I've forgotten his last name. Ian's asking, do I think FreeCAD is a good starting CAD? No. Personal opinion, it's quite difficult to use and not as, I guess, to get the ideas flowing, not as easy as, like, I find Fusion, but absolutely people use it to do really cool stuff, so that's just my personal opinion. I think start with Tinkercad. If you've never done any 3D modeling before, fire up Tinkercad and have a crack. Because one or two things will happen. One, you'll be struggling with the 3D perspective of it. Because I remember do a tutorial class and this lady was like thinking she was making something smaller, but she was moving it further away. And because of perspective, it was getting smaller. And she was like, why is it so far away now? Stuff like that. So like she'd arranged it and never changed the view. So we moved the view and everything was like spaced like into the distance. It's really funny. Then she got it like really quickly. So learn 3D environments with Tinkercad. And if you find it really easy, then jump into FreeCAD or Fusion or one of the others. And also Streaker is asking about Design Spark Mechanical. I haven't really tried it, but that's another really good alternative too. AV Physics, 32-bit versus 16-bit 3D printer controller. Usually it's 8-bit. I don't know if 16-bit controllers exist. They might. 32-bit if you can afford it. No brainer. You get a faster controller. You usually get a really nice interface with it as well. It's the future. There's no real reason to use the outdated like Arduino-based control boards anymore. We should go to something better. Andrew Flame of the West, been here with you since 25,000 subs. That would have been in 2016. Thank you so much for sticking around. I found a sticker on the old studio because I filmed at my parents for a while. And it was like from my sister saying, congrats on 20,000 subs. I was like, oh, that was so long ago. That was such an amazing achievement. And then this happens. It's like, I don't know how to feel about it. I'm just happy to share what I do with you guys. And you guys are amazing. And this is so much fun. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Dave, these live chats are boring. Well, you're welcome to turn it off and leave if you don't enjoy it. I don't do these very often. These are just to catch up with you guys. Bingo's asking, what's your thoughts on eSun filament and what do you like to use? eSun's really good. I met the CEO of eSun once and he was a really nice, humble guy. They're probably the biggest manufacturer in China of filament now, I would say. They OEM for a lot of people, which means you get filament from a company, and it's like their brand. It's actually Esun. You can usually tell by their spools. And they're great. They've come a very long way. Their filament's very high quality. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. If you can get Esun, then get it. Dylan's saying, I learned so much from the 501 Mechanical Movements book. Thanks for recommending it. I love that book. I do like collecting old books that are over there at the moment. So I've got my engineering, I think it's the Engineer's Thesaurus or something. And it's got like the 507 mechanisms. It's a previous version or something like that. And I've got these other crazy ones. I like finding crazy old things in them. Yeah, she was filming at parents at the little room under the house. Yeah, so my first few videos were done in a storeroom, which I'd converted to my workshop, and my head would hit the roof. They're tiny. I still did pretty good. You got to use what you've got. And absolutely, it was good fun. Donald's asking Mulbot and Snappy 3D printer thoughts. I don't know what the Mulbot one is, but the Snappy's really cool. It's more of a feat of engineering versus a good 3D printer. It's like a really cool project and concept. The Snappies are all 3D printed 3D printer. Like everything's 3D printed. And yeah, I think it's really cool. I met the guy that made it when I went to the States. Really neat design. A lot of really interesting concepts because 3D printing plastic obviously isn't as strong as metal. So a lot of different approaches to creating linear movement than normal machines. Leo's saying, what would you recommend for cheap polyamide filament? So PA, so nylon. I don't know really. Nylon's become one of these weird filaments where a lot of it isn't nylon anymore. It's all these weird blends. They've tried to make it less hygroscopic. They tried to make it less warp prone, easier to print, lower printing temperature. I just have bought no-name polyamide. I think it was nylon 6 or 12, probably 6. Don't quote me on that. It's like fishing line, and it works great as long as you keep it dry. And I've learnt recently that a crappy dehydrator does a good job drying polyamide. So, yeah. I think you can't buy terrible filament anymore. It's almost like I want to try like test it, find the cheapest filament online and try it. But I don't think you can buy filament that just flat out won't work anymore. You used to be able to buy filament that was like, you know, it's meant to be 1.75 and it was like 3 millimeters. Like it would change in diameter, or it would have bits of pieces in it, like ball bearings or shop swarf, or they'd say it'd be ABS and it's actually PLA or a mix. I don't think that happens anymore. Yeah, so I'll just go with the cheapest and see how you go. Kieran, thanks so much. I will definitely grab a drink on you. Appreciate it, dude. Jedi's asking when will my next US appearance be. I don't know. I'm really kicking myself I didn't go to that last Bay Area Maker Fair before. It probably will never happen again. There's been so much happening this year, and there's going to be so much more happening this year in my life that I'm really going to have a hard time traveling. I went to the Robotronica Robot Combat event last weekend, and that was literally like days before planned. Like I wasn't going to go, and then they were like, we need a commentator, can you come? I'm like, okay. And I flew up, did it, came back. Like I haven't had a trip for so long. And when you go to the States from Australia, it's a full-on like 15, 20-hour flight. You have to change at LAX and go to wherever. It's just crazy. And it's really expensive as well. And I'm very tentative with taking on sponsors on the channel. You might have noticed, I don't generally do it. Because I don't want to force things down your guys' throat like that isn't relevant. And generally 3D printing companies don't have a huge budget. So, I mean, last time I went, I took on 4 sponsorships from 4 different companies, and it did cover costs for the travel, but it didn't cover costs for the time, if that makes sense. So, I'm not sure. If there is another Maker Faire on, I probably will try to go to it, because I got this, like, FOMO now, a fear of missing out, and I want to catch up with all the other YouTubers and catch up with you guys. But it's just a long way to go. Alan's asking, ever thought about making my own filament? Yes, absolutely. It's not as easy as it looks. There's a really good video showing how Protopaster does it, and they use a different method to most companies. But the issue with keeping filament the correct diameter is it's not extruded, right, as you might expect. You don't just force it through a nozzle that's 1.75 millimeter and it becomes filament. It's actually drawn. So it goes out of a nozzle and then it's pulled. And it's cooled down periodically along a very long path, and they control the speed of the pull, and that's what controls the diameter. So the hole is actually usually a little bit larger than the filament's final diameter. And that's a very precise process, because you need to control the temperature to control how, like, viscous or whatever the word is, elastic the filament is. I don't know the technical term. Very hard to do. But what I would like to try is, yeah, it's still good, is a hopper-based extruder. So you get a hopper and a screw, and it just extrudes out, like, instead of extruding it into filament, you just extrude it out into a big blob, and that's the print. Like, so Teaching Tech just put it together a shredder based on the Precious Plastics design, and that's really cool. It shreds plastic into little bits, and then you could, in theory, get a hopper-based extruder and then extrude it directly. I think that's the way to go. Shiv was saying, please never take sponsors from NordVPN or Amazon. Yeah, noted. Thank you. Her attack, what? Yeah, I can't read your name. Do you really notice a big difference in printing with a 0.2 as opposed to a 0.4 in terms of detail? So I assume you mean the nozzle, not the layer height. Here's the thing with FDM. It's still melting bits of plastic out line by line, so I haven't printed with a 0.2 really much. I've printed with a 0.3. And yes, in terms of, like, top surface detail, you do notice a big difference. Side detail, though, not really, because you can print at a lower layer height, like 0.1, which is still lower than the 0.2 diameter, and you can get really good side finish. The smaller nozzle really just makes a difference on the top and maybe bottom surfaces, but it takes, way longer, and it's more prone to jamming. I think 0.4 is the one we settled to because it's just easier, but honestly 0.6, if your parts are simple, try 0.6, because it actually works pretty good, and you still get a decent amount of detail. You can print at 0.4 layer heights for blocky things, and yeah, maybe that's the way to go. No Way Out's asking, have I seen Marco Rep's channel? Yes, I have. He's a really good channel. He also likes the Cetuses. Yeah, he's building a really cool CNC. He was testing out linear slides, actually. So yeah, Marco Reps does good stuff too. So I just need a little bit more water. I've lost my water. I literally have put it somewhere and I don't know where. Oh, there it is. Renegade Bikers, how's the weather down there and land down under? It's been really dry. One of the driest winters we've had ever, actually. It's really weird. And it's been windy, but now it's hot. And I've got the sun. It's sort of stopped blasting me now. But it's really warm. And it's hasn't rained for a while. It's just a bit scary. Andreas, thank you so much. Some thoughts to reduce EM and EW. I'm not sure what that stands for. I'm sorry. What do you... extruder multiplier and extruder width. Right. Well, I don't know why you're reducing it, though. I don't quite get your question. Your extruder multiplier is really a hack. Your extruder width should be what you tell it to be. And you use the extruder multiplier to bring it back into that range. So if your width is coming out undersized to what it should be, then you use the multiplier to bump it up again. But it's a bit of a hack. You should make sure your steps per millimeter are correct. So you extrude 10 millimeters of filament, 100 millimeters of filament, and then retract it and make sure that it is actually 100 and your steps per millimeter are correct. And then start messing around with your multiplier to get it really dialed in. I think that's what you're asking. Christopher Barber, thanks so much. Thanks for answering all my questions. More than happy to. That's why I'm here. Just Jack. A small layer shift just ruined my print. Internal screaming. I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe bump your current up a little bit on that axis. It's or it hit it and it was doomed anyway. I have had that so many times. Steve, you and teaching technique to each other in Oz. We are not. We're in different states, but that doesn't change too much. We could catch up if either of us had the time. Ruben Martin, how about ANET A8 Plus? Yeah, I think that's the one I'm putting together right now. Maybe it's a kit, and again, ANET has really pulled their socks up these days. At least I hope they have. They had a bit of a reputation. I think they're getting better now. John's asking Wi-Fi Duet thoughts. Fantastic controller, very expensive. Whether it makes your machine better for the price that you pay, that's up to you. But it is quite a premium product, but really, really cool. Street Guru, have you ever considered moving to the US or something to get printers or other things easier? Actually, ironically, it's easier for me than most people in the US to get printers because a lot of them come from China. And we're closer geographically to China than the US. So I won't be getting machines that are made in the US easy, but yeah, they generally come straight from a Chinese warehouse. Most products in the world are made in China. So yeah, it's actually easy for me to get them, even where I am. I'm like an hour and a half out of Sydney. Like, even where I am, it's pretty easy to get. Tony Ryan, I came here to see some robots duking it out. I do want to do more robot combat stuff. For those who don't know what it is, they're these remote-controlled machines that fight each other in a ring for 3 minutes. And you might have seen BattleBots and Robot Wars. There's a lot of different classes. So the ones you see on TV are heavyweights. They're like 100 kilograms. They're massive. But you can make smaller ones. So like ant weights are 150 grams. And they fit in the palm of your hand. You can 3D print the whole thing. And I really think they're a great sort of gateway into design practices. And like, they're good because they force evolution. Like, you can't just make something and be like, I'm done. Because it has to survive the fight. And if it gets exploded and breaks, you're like, oh, I have to make it better next time. That's what's cool about it. So I will probably show more of it in future. If it starts to happen more. It's not happening too much in New South Wales. It happens more in Brisbane, Queensland, which is where I just was. But yeah, possibly. Stranger just joined. Welcome. Do any of your printers use higher microsteps on the drivers? Not sure what you mean by higher microsteps, but some of my machines have the new Trinamic drivers, which are 128 microstepped. Close enough. And they're silent and they're amazing. Yes, absolutely. Microstepping is sick when it comes to making printers quieter. Keith, do you 3D print your hair? I do literally nothing to it. It is just what it is, and love it or hate it, it's here to stay. thanks for the congratulations, appreciate it. License to Drive. Tombstone is a bot you never want to go against. I don't know. Tombstone is all offense, and it hasn't. In recent years, it's had its ass handed to it a few times. Robots are getting better at defending against it. So I'm not sure how it's going to do in this season. I haven't caught up with the latest BattleBots, but yeah, I think his reign of terror is probably coming to an end, I reckon. He still does tons of damage though, no question. Did any of my videos get taken down during the robot combat animal abuse issues with the YouTube algorithms? I'm not sure. I don't control the Robo Wars Australia channel anymore. So I used to do some tutorials, some robot combat tutorials, and there is fights on that channel. I don't know if they got taken down or not, or if they were taken down and put up. I had a quick look, seemed fine. I think it was only affecting a few key videos where the angle and the placement made it look like they were animals, maybe, and the name might have been like an animal name. I don't know. It's so stupid. That's right. The TMCs are 256 steps. Thank you. Old curmudgeon. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's so crazy. They're so good. Absolutely. Every 3D printer now should have TMC 2130s. Angus, do you have any ideas about what to do with empty filament spools to use as a project? I have 25 of them. Yeah, I don't know. There's a few cool things. People have made them into like racks to hold paint and that. But they're not standardized and they're all, pretty crappy. I don't know if they can be recycled or not. They go in the bin here. I don't know what to do with them. It's as sad as it is to say, I go through so much stuff. If they're marked as recyclable, I will recycle them, but often they have screws and glue in them. I don't know. The cardboard spools that some modern companies use are really good, and I do like them. I showed like a 7-year-old roll of ABS with like a really crappy cardboard spool. That's horrible. But like the modern thick cardboard ones, I know they're more expensive. Or I'm not sure. Are they more expensive? There's a reason they don't use them often though, clearly. But I would like to see cardboard spools. Absolutely. So sorry, that doesn't answer your question. I don't know what to do with them. Richard, thanks so much. Thanks again for a great channel. Keep it up and look forward to your 1 million. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I didn't ever expect 500,000 to happen. I don't know. I just want to keep doing it and doing cool projects, finding out cool things and sharing it with you guys, and we'll see where it goes. UKI. Go Death Roll. Yeah, that's the Australian one. Thanks for jumping in, dude. Really appreciate it. I need to send you a PM at some point as well. But yeah, Death Roll's the Australian robot. So if you go see Death Roll on the latest BattleBots, that's my mates. That's the Australian team. So go Death Roll. What upgrades will be good for a Delta printer? Well, if you've seen the recent review, a 32-bit control board. 32-bit control board for a Delta is the way to go. Other than that, make sure it's nice and rigid and your joints don't have any slop in them, and you're good. Spikes, that's right. Chuck over at his channel built a go-kart out of empty spools. I do remember that. And I think there was a bit of rough play on their latest spool racer. Nassar's asking, is there really a reason for hobbyists to buy an above $1,000 printer with a Prusa, Corelli, and others on the market? No. If you're a hobbyist, you don't need to spend over $1,000 these days to get a good, reliable 3D printer. The only reason you would have to or want to is if you want to print high temperature materials with an enclosure, because once you add an enclosure, the price jumps up. But the i3 style open frame machines, there's so many you can get for like $500. The Prusa for the kit, whatever, 600 or so, assembled, there's no reason to spend more. Absolutely not. It's become so accessible. Non-fam saying, I'm looking to start a small business selling or repairing and creating print CNC parts. Any advice? I did actually make a video about 3D printing for business. You can go check it out. It's difficult. Don't think it's going to be easy because these machines are quite accessible now, and a lot of people are clued up and skilled up on using them. When it first started, they weren't, and they were harder to get, so that's why the market was a lot hotter. Now you really have to have a unique selling proposition, and you need to play into your strengths to get that out. I'm not saying it's impossible. It definitely is still possible, but it's not as easy as it used to be. So go check that video out. Clifford Arrow, if it hasn't been asked, what's your favorite filament? If whatever's on hand. I get sent so many different brands that I have so many different spools. I will use whatever I have. I really like the Polyalchemy stuff because it looks good on camera. Quite frankly, that's the main reason I use Polyalchemy. The guy behind it's fantastic. Judd, he's a really cool dude. He's Australian, and I get along with him, and it's just the filaments just look so good on camera. It's a weird PLA. It's not as strong as some other PLAs. You print at a slightly higher temperature to get the strength back, which means you can get like a bit droopier under surfaces. Like the overhangs aren't as good as like a pure PLA, but the color and the shine is just so nice. It just really makes prints pop. Oh yeah, someone's saying, yeah, Shivel's saying they use the spools for extension leads. That's actually a really good idea. I never thought of that. That's actually super clever. Well, that's a good point. For leads, that's actually not a bad idea at all. Dylan's asking, is BattleBots the same as UK Robot Wars? Different companies completely. Robot Wars was more focused on the machines and the show of the arena. So like you had the house robots and that. Whereas BattleBots is more focused on like the spectacle and the people around it. So it's more like almost like a football game or something where they got the announcer, they got the commentators, they show who's behind the robots. Whereas I don't know, yeah, they're different flavors. I have to say I preferred the Robot Wars flavor, but because it doesn't happen anymore, BattleBots is what we got, and the machines are just phenomenal in BattleBots. Absolutely, the machines these days are crazy. Adam's saying, so I'm doing an engineering degree at university. Which modeling software apart from SolidWorks and Fusion would you suggest for 3D modeling? If you're doing engineering, you're probably clued up with SolidWorks. So I don't know why you'd need something apart from that, I guess. Enjoy it while it lasts if you can't get it afterwards. Yeah, I don't know. The SolidWorks and Fusion are my two main drivers. I mean, people have suggested other ones in the chat. Yeah, anything else you'd have to pay for, like Katia and that, you'd have to pay a lot of money for. What software do I use to edit videos? Leo's asking. I use Premiere Pro. I use not Autodesk. I use Adobe everything. I pay a monthly fee for it. That's what it is. It's just what I just picked up and learned. It took me a while. I was self-taught. There's some good tutorials out there. There's another one, DaVinci Resolve, which I really want to try, but I don't have time to relearn something. But yeah, it's just Premiere Pro is just drag and drop. It's so simple to use. And Nitro's asking, what printer would you use to print tabletop miniatures? I would absolutely use one of the many small resin printers. Obviously, be careful with the safety. I know I've said it 1,000 times, but Anycubic Photon S, the newer one, whatever, fantastic. Elgu Mars, everyone's raving about that machine. And then there's the longer one, longer 10, whatever it's called. Any of those would be perfect for miniatures. Absolutely. Oh. Probably going to finish up shortly, guys, and get some food. This has been really fun. I do apologize that it's just a talking head stream. I do want to do a commemorative 500k maker coin and share it with you guys because it's been absolutely crazy. Yeah, like I used to, what was it, like 5 years ago? I was working in a small studio in Perth, 3D printing for people, and I didn't like my job. I didn't like what the environment I was in. It was really hard, and I didn't have much spare time. And then now I can do this as my job, and I really love it, and I can use my time and channel it into more things to share with you guys. It's been a really crazy road. I really, really enjoy it. Spike saying, explaining computers have done a tutorial on DaVinci Resolve. That's awesome. I have seen some tutorials on it. I do really want to pick it up. I might just force myself to learn it. Yeah, cool. So I think I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for watching and joining me and being here for this crazy milestone. You don't get a YouTube plaque for 500k, but I think I've got a few ideas of making something, like I said, the Maker Coin and stuff like that. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but there's some big changes coming. So hang tight. The video schedule might be a little bit disrupted, but I really, really look forward to sharing with you what's coming up. And yeah, have a fantastic weekend, morning, afternoon, night, wherever you are. And, you know, as I say, it's always my aim to empower your creativity through technology. If you want to reach me outside of YouTube, the best way is on Twitter, at MakersMuse. You can at me. It's so hopefully I can answer your question. And I know no promises, but, you know, might help other people. Patricia, right at the end, thank you so much. Jeez, you guys are awesome. I thank you. You don't need to do that. And then we got unlikely creators jumping in right at the end as well. Thank you guys. Thank you, Daniel, as well. Really appreciate it. And yeah, have a fantastic time. I look forward to seeing you again very shortly here on Makers Muse. Catch you later, guys. Bye. And now I'm going to have to press the button here. See ya.